Hey there, welcome to the Extra Mile. And if you listen to the Dashboard Jesus podcast, I apologize if I was more, I know I am more frazzled and just not polished, and my thoughts are not just this is just not good right now. And maybe it's the time of day, but I know that it's not. I know it's just the emotions and everything else. I just don't know how to put it into words. I just don't. And it's weird to me a little bit how much this has really gotten to me. And maybe part of it is the fact that it affected my kids too. And I don't know, it gave you, good father-daughter time to discuss some of that. And in our prayers, I think that was beneficial too. Just my middle daughter, Bristol, was asking me, she's not as emotional as Addie, but she was saying, like, I'm sad, and why would someone do that to someone else? And yeah, I mean, that's, in a weird way, this might be their first introduction to the heinous, evil side of the world around us. Just because it's so weird that they knew Charlie Kirk just from the little bit of social media that they I say little bit. To some of you, it would probably appall you how much social media they take in. It probably would appall me if I knew the full breadth of it. I know we allow them on their phones, but kids have a way of working around that sometimes, I think. But anyway, I do want to mention, because it is 9/11 and it is a tradition, and it's, I think, an important tradition to talk about some of this stuff. American Flight 11, that's the first plane that was hijacked. Mohammed Atta was the terrorist that had commandeered, or at least taken the controls of that plane and steered it into the North Tower. And when they hit the North Tower, absolute chaos erupts. I want to tell you what happened in the midst of that chaos in the North Tower. You had alarms wailing, if you can even picture this, if you can imagine this, and ceilings buckling. You're talking the sky lobby area there. Smoke begins filling the air almost immediately. And so most people in that world that were plunged into this fiery drama all around them, they did what their instinct provoked. They turned and ran for the stairs, desperate to escape. Every single one of us would have that instinct. And I think every single one of us would head in that direction. But Frank DeMartini did not. And neither did Pablo Ortiz. Those two guys, and maybe their instinct initially drove them in that way, but something happened, and their instincts gave way to their convictions and their sense of duty, and they ended up running towards the danger. DeMartini, if you've never seen him before, he was an architect for the Port Authority. He was actually in some of the documentaries that were made about the design of the World Trade Center and so on and so forth. Ortiz is actually was a construction supervisor there at the World Trade Center. Immediately, those two team up, essentially, and they go to work working their way through these devastated floors right around the impact zone. So where the heat is the most intense, where the smoke is the most intense, where everybody is desperately trying to flee, you know what these guys are doing? Sorry, there's a fly flying around. These guys are kicking open jammed doors, just going pure Rambo on the doors. They're prying loose twisted metal. And by the way, we know this because survivors who saw them document that's what these guys were doing. Smash through drywall with their bare hands. Just put it straight through the wall. Adrenaline undoubtedly kicking in. Survivors later recalled and have told of hearing their voices, steady and calm and commanding. And this is what they kept saying. Come this way, stay together, you can make it. Just almost over and over. You know, like flight attendants, when the plane's going down or the plane's going to make a rough landing, and they just start reciting in unison, brace, brace. We've all seen that. That's what these guys apparently are doing. Come this way, stay together, you can make it. Over and over. One of the survivors from the North Tower They'd been burned by jet fuel. Because remember, that's right where the ground zero is what we call the World Trade Center, but it was ground zero in the North Tower where American 11 had hit. One of these survivors that had been burned by the jet fuel recalled, I'm going to read the quote here, "I could barely see, barely move, but then I heard these men telling us not to give up. They broke down walls to get to us. They held me up and led me to the stairs. I wouldn't have made it without them." Group after group, DeMartini and Ortiz, they lead them to safety. And then, instead of fleeing, they would turn back and do it again and again, climbing over the wreckage, searching for anyone still alive. Imagine the exhaustion. And they're not getting good deep breaths of oxygen either. By the time the tower fell, these two guys had rescued together at least 50 people. At least 50 people could say, those two guys are the reason that I got out of this building. And their last known act, where they were seen last, was forcing open another elevator shaft to free people that were still trapped in it. And when the building came down, they were still inside, still rescuing. So I just, on a day that we set aside to think back and mark the day and remember the day, it's a day that is easy to remember for the destruction, the crumpled steel, the terror, all of that. But on a day like that, I want to mention the name of Frank DeMartini and Pablo Ortiz, those two names, because those two guys stood as quiet giants. They had no capes. They had no cameras around them. They had no orders to follow. Nobody was telling them to do this. It wasn't their job to do this. I'm taking nothing away from firefighters or Port Authority officials or anything like that. I mean, people that run into burning buildings as a profession, that is a profession of self-sacrifice. So I'm not taking anything away. But these guys were among those that firefighters and Port Authority officials are supposed to go in and get out, because they're not the professionals who do it, but they did it. And their courage that day brought dozens of strangers, upwards of 50 people, more years of life, more birthdays, more chances to hold grandchildren, more chapters in stories that otherwise would have ended that terrible morning. And now we're 24 years on from that horrific event. And this is the question that I always come back to every 9/11, whenever I tell one of these stories, one of these accounts. How do you honor men like that? Well, I suppose if you're in a burning skyscraper, you could do as they did, but most of us are not going to be in a burning skyscraper. But here's what we are going to be in every day. Every day, you and I have opportunities. They're small, and I get that, but they're real, to make the same choice that they did that day. To run towards need rather than away from it. Every 9/11, it seems like I'm quoting John 15:13. "The greater love hath no one than this, than a man or someone lay down their life for a friend, for a neighbor." That call isn't limited to combat or to crisis. It's the call to speak truth to a culture that is addicted to lies, to show mercy in an age of outrage, exactly what we were just talking about on the podcast. It's an opportunity to offer hope where fear is what sells the fastest. It's an opportunity that all of us have, in the same way that DeMartini and Ortiz did, to bear another's burden. Even when those burdens are heavy and even when they're costly. Our world, and if this has ever been truer than it is right now, I don't know when it would have been. Our world doesn't need more cynics who are simply watching from a safe distance and commenting on it. What our world needs is more men and women who are willing to run toward the smoke, towards people's pain, towards people's brokenness, towards lost neighbors, with the rescue that lasts not just for a few more fleeting years, but that lasts for eternity. The rescue of Jesus' love and salvation. That's what I want us to take from that. That's what I think is worth taking from that. So may God bless the memory of Frank DeMartini and Pablo Ortiz, bless their families that were left behind, as well as bless the memory of all those that were lost on September 11, 2001. But more than that, may He bless their memories by inspiring us, motivating us, and providing us the opportunities and the courage to follow their example in a world that is still on fire. Appreciate all of you. Thanks for tuning in, and keep praying. We need it. Keep praying. I'll see you tomorrow for a From the Dashboard commentary.